My Climate Plan is an international organization operating in Canada in the US, and our goal is to help people make their communities climate safe. So we do this through a number of different channels, including our newsletters, the My Climate Plan Weekly and the My Climate Plan Advocate, through writing articles on a variety of different subjects related to being climate safe, through our soon to be released online planning tool, and through hosting webinars and events like this one featuring experts on a range of different topics. So today we're very excited to have Mike Nowotniak here from BC-based heat pump installation company Method Air. And he's going to talk about heat pumps as a cooling solution. And one of the reasons we really wanted to talk about heat pumps in this way is that they come with a lot of co-benefits that some folks don't know about. This includes benefits for our home and comfort, for our health, for our wallet, and our electricity bills, and also for our household emissions. Mike, I want to say thank you. You are one of the first members of our growing network of solutions providers who are offering your expertise and also exclusive discounts to My Climate Plan members. So thank you for that, Mike. And I would love it if you could introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you got into this work.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for that, Bailey. And thanks for everyone for joining us. And I'm super proud and happy to be here working with you guys on providing some climate solutions for people. So we're, again, Method Air based out of Victoria, BC. And I got into this trade originally as a refrigeration mechanic. I was a chef in my past life. And I thought, I see these guys come in and do work. And I thought, what an interesting job. So when I got tired of being a chef, I moved on to that. And what I didn't realize was that there's this whole world of creating comfortable environments for people to live in, and that it's actually a bigger part of the industry than the refrigeration portion. So what we deal with mainly is residential and commercial HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Our main concern is providing comfortable, safe environments for people with good ventilation, air filtration, and obviously good temperatures is a good thing. And yeah, so that's essentially what we do.
Thanks so much for that, Mike. And can you give us a little bit of an overview of how heat pumps work for cooling and some of the key features and benefits that you normally share with your clients?
Sure, yeah. So a heat pump essentially, what it does is it draws the heat out of the outside air, and using the compression cycle and the refrigerant, it transfers the heat to inside. That in heating, that's how it works. So you've got a fan and a compressor outside, and then the refrigeration circuit that runs inside along with some wiring and so on. And then essentially you've got another unit inside. And so you're transferring heat from one space to the other. In cooling, all it's doing essentially is reversing the cycle. So you're drawing heat out of the home and then rejecting it into the outside air. Same thing, just using electricity in the refrigeration cycle. So air conditioning had been around for decades and decades, and then sometime around the early 80s, they realized that by reversing the cycle, you could kind of get double the potential of this equipment. And rather than just being an air conditioning system, it's doing heating as well. So that was a pretty big revolutionary breakthrough in the industry. And here on the island, we didn't have a lot of natural gas. So back in the 90s and even into the 80s, people started using heat pumps just to get away from using oil and wood heat because of its inefficiency in that. So yeah, so heat pumps have become a huge part of the way people heat and cool their homes here and across Canada. And over the last few years, the technology has been exponentially growing and getting better to the point now where the systems that we're putting in now will heat your home down to minus 15 degrees Celsius at 100%. So we don't need to have additional backup heat typically. And Yeah, people have been really excited to have, like, I mean, over the course of my career, I've certainly heard a lot of great feedback from people. Um, uh, Primarily, people are interested in clean energy is huge. A lot of people just don't like the idea of having natural gas or oil tank or an oil furnace in their basement. So getting away from that offers people a lot of peace of mind. And then you go back there after a couple of years, and a lot of people are like, I wish I'd done this years ago. We're saving money. My house is so much more comfortable. And now, particularly in the last like 3 to 4 years, people are just using their cooling more often. And even when I got into the industry 10, 15 years ago, it was primarily heating. Like people were getting rid of their traditional electric or oil or gas furnace, putting in a heat pump, because they're saving a ton of money on energy, and also the added benefit of a lower carbon footprint. But nowadays, what I hear more and more often is, and I also sleep a lot better in the summer. And it's comfortable when I've got relatives over who are older, or if, the people are older themselves, or if they've got kids whose bedrooms happen to be on the top floor. It's like life changing for people to have that cooling in their home now.
That's great. And I think you sort of touched on a few different scenarios that you've encountered with different clients that you've installed heat pumps for. But I wonder if you could go into that a little bit more and give us some examples of client stories, how they're using heat pumps for cooling, and what you're hearing from them.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, one great example was a family. We did an installation last summer, and they just bought this beautiful new home. And they had a couple of young girls, in their 9 or 10 or something like that. And so they moved into this home. They're super proud of it, and they're putting all this time and effort into it, and obviously spent a bunch of money on it. They loved their new home. They loved the neighborhood, but they couldn't stand how hot it was. And this was in maybe July, I think we did this installation, and they were visibly upset about it. And they were like, we've spent all this money and we've invested in this thing that we really love, but we're not comfortable, and we go out every evening because we don't even enjoy being in our own home. They're having a tough time sleeping. They're setting up portable air conditioners with fans. And that's typical the way we built houses here. Air conditioning was never a part of the plan, and it didn't really need to be back in, when a lot of these houses were built in the 70s and 80s. So this family in particular, anyways, they'd been there for about 6 weeks or so. Obviously, they had some major pain points, and we were able to go in there and put a ductless system in, which provided cooling for their main living spaces, all the bedrooms, as well as their office space downstairs, where they happen to work from. Um, and I went back there a few days later to check in on them and see how things were doing, and they were so thrilled. And the the mom was just had tears in her eyes, and she's like, "This was life changing. We actually like enjoy our home now." And that to me was like it really was a moment where I kind of realized that, like, we're not just doing this as a job or a business, or um, because it's interesting work. It actually does like make a huge effect on people's lives and how much they can enjoy being at home. And um, you know, it's even a safety thing. Like, I mean, we all know how we feel when we're not sleeping properly, or we're extremely uncomfortable. And you can imagine how that feels to people who are older, when you've got little kids and that. It's an important thing now. So, additionally, since the pandemic, a lot more people still do work from home, and that also was a big turning point in our industry when, um, originally, when it came around, a lot of people believed that that was going to be the end of, well, people don't want us in their homes anymore. Things are really going to slow down and grind to a halt here in the HVAC industry. And it actually had the opposite effect, because all of a sudden everyone's working at home, and they're going, you know what? When you're sitting here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it makes a huge difference when you've got clean, dry, fresh air flowing around your house like you may be used to in an office. So the industry completely blew up during the pandemic, and it was a boom time because a lot of people were realizing how important that is to have that, like, comfortable living space where you're kind of ticking all those boxes of what creates a comfortable environment to live in.
I think that's a really good point that it's not just about bringing in a cooling solution for your home. It's actually really having a meaningful impact on people's quality of life when they're spending so much time at home. And I love the story that you shared about the family with the young children and how moved she was that her kids have a comfortable and a safe place to sleep. So thank you for sharing that example. And I think so, you've made it very clear some of the incredible benefits of a heat pump, but I know a lot of people have expressed a barrier is they worry about the affordability. It does have a sort of a larger price tag up front when you're looking into it. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. Some of the issues around affordability and rebates and things like that you've been able to recommend to people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I also have my own place and put a heat pump in here, and I understand like the upfront cost is a big barrier for most people, right? Some people not so much, but a lot of us were just, it's a price tag, right? So um, the the costs can be offset. There's financing available. The costs can be really offset by a lot of the rebates and provincially and federally and even municipally that are available right now. The federal rebates right now, there's one called the Oil to Heat Pump Affordability Program, which offers a $10,000 upfront payment for people to switch from an oil furnace to a heat pump. And that doesn't require any kind of an energy advisor audit, and it can be combined with other rebates as well. So that's a huge one. Um, the Canada Greener Homes is still offering their interest-free loan to qualified homes. So if people want to do any sort of energy upgrades, and it's not just specifically heat pumps, but window upgrades, insulation, anything that can sort of climate proof your home and create a more comfortable environment and a more energy efficient home. And that's a lot of what's driving a lot of these rebates is the governments en masse they want people's homes to be safe, but they also want to um, minimize the strain on the energy grid and limit the amount of natural gas and oil that's being produced right now to do the same job. Um, Provincially here in British Columbia, we've got the income qualified program. So for mid to low income families, there's some really great upfront options, and you can look into that and see if your family qualifies or if you qualify. We've done a number of jobs for seniors who are on fixed income, and a lot of them have never heard of this program, and a lot of them qualify, and we're able to get in there and do a job close to free for some people because they'll qualify for these programs, and if we put the right system in, they're getting rid of that oil furnace or that we did one recently where the guy's his insurance company wasn't going to reinsure his house because he had this old oil tank in the basement, and we were able to provide a solution for him, and he was able to capitalize on some of these income qualified rebates, and we were able to do the job for pretty low overhead costs for them. So you definitely want to get a few different quotes. There's a vast range of companies out there. I would definitely recommend finding someone who's accredited and getting a few quotes and just get a feel for what's available. Most outfits will do free estimates, or they should be, and you can kind of get an idea of what fits your budget, and also what's available, and the type of company it is that's going to be doing the installation, because you can get a lot out of that by having them out to your house and having a chat with them, and a good solution provider will work with the client and try and find something that works, and if available, will offer financing, or and certainly point people in the right directions to take advantage to some of these rebate programs that are available that can take a big chunk out of the initial cost. Um, what we find in general too is that once people have made that investment in their house, and it's similar to like purchasing a car that you're proud of, or anything in your home that it's sort of a thing that you attach some value to it, and you come home and it's nice and it's the perfect temperature and everyone's comfortable and it's quiet, and your hydro bills start going down. And a lot of people, the feedback we'll get is, I kind of wish that I'd done this a couple years ago, now that I've got it in here. And like, we've certainly never had anyone want to go back to their past system. And so the feedback's been really good overall, and there are a lot of avenues to offset that initial cost. And I definitely would, it's in our best interest to make it as affordable as possible as well. So as a service provider, we'll always try and maximize the potential rebates that are available for people.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. And you touched a little bit on the sort of the initial investment, and then reflecting back on sort of your energy bills going down over time. So it actually becomes the sort of more affordable solution. And I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit as well, the efficiency and the fact that over time people will see their bills go down.
Yeah, for sure. So it's, generally speaking, I mean, it's a little bit situational, but you can generally say that a heat pump is around 3 to 4 times more efficient than heating your home with wood, or an electric furnace, electric baseboard, or gas furnace. Um, Depending on the prices of commodities, uh, potentially to heat your home in the winter, natural gas may be close to be comparable right now, but that price fluctuates a lot with geopolitics and any of the other potentials. But the heat pump is the most efficient way, as you're not actually sort of using a fossil fuel to burn. You're transferring that heat from outside, so you're using the technology to your advantage to sort of cut down that running time cost, right? Like, as you said, the initial installs can be pretty expensive, and over time, these things will pay themselves off, and it can really vary anywhere from 5 to 15 years it can take to pay, but to the point where it's completely paid itself off. And that depends on what you were using previously. Was it efficient? Um, a lot of people, if you're measuring it using that stick, it can be a little hard to justify it, but it's one of those things that you make the initial investment, and then a year or two down the road, people rarely reflect on it, and are it's kind of paid for, and it's doing its job, and your home is more comfortable. And a lot of people realize that there's a lot of value in just feeling comfortable in your home, and feeling, when if we were to have another heat dome like we had here in BC a few years back, it was like people were suffering, people, to to them, highest extent of suffering. And the people who had heat pumps had cooling, and they used it, and they were pretty comfortable. And I'm sure they had a lot of their neighbors over during that time. As like a lot of people were going out to movie theaters and commercial spaces where it was like, you need reprieve. This is too much. So the initial cost, it can be offset. It eventually they start paying themselves down. And what I've found is that usually people, once they've made that initial investment, there's really no looking back. They're usually happy with the choice they've made, and pleased with the result, and pleased with their hydro bills. And it's nice to step away from using other forms of heating and cooling as well.
Thanks, Mike. And I think you touched on it a little bit in all of your answers, but I would love to hear some of the feedback that you've gotten, specific feedback. You shared that example of the recent install you did with the family, but just other things you're hearing. I think we got some reactions to the article we did a few weeks ago. people going, oh, I never thought about the fact that, yeah, you'd be sleeping better. It's one of
Yeah.
those things that people might not often, it wouldn't just come to mind. So I'm wondering if you can share some of that other feedback that can really help people make that decision.
Sure. Yeah. Well, like as I kind of touched on before, um, certainly like your home comfort, like a lot of people don't really realize the difference it makes to have that airflow. Like if people are switching from a baseboard type system where it's a resistive heater kind of just radiating heat out into your home, as soon as you put one of these ductless split units on the wall, and well, those ones are certainly way more affordable, or way more efficient in terms of their use of electricity. But having that airflow, and as well as the air conditioning provides a dehumidifying effect as well. It does dehumidify. So that feeling like when it's 23 or 24 degrees and you're quite sticky. When you've got your air conditioning running or your heat pump running in air conditioning and it's 23 or 24 degrees, you can be incredibly comfortable. It's that humidity that's in the air that's maybe like 90 to 95% relative humidity. Whereas when you've got your heat pump running in air conditioning, it's running at about 50% relative humidity. So you've got like it's just dry feeling. You've got airflow constantly, and what they do too is kind of move air around the house, conditioned air around the house all the constantly, as opposed to turning off and on like a traditional type of system. And so what it does is it creates a much more homogeneous sort of temperature throughout the space, and you've got this kind of air flowing around and keeping everything relatively the same temperature, as opposed to kind of coming on at full blast for 5 minutes and it gets a little bit too hot and then it kind of slowly cools down. So some of the feedback we've gotten, it's just much more comfortable. People are sleeping a lot better. People are super happy to have the oil tank out of their basement. That's a big thing. Like it's a concern having those things. It's like ticking time bomb, not literally a bomb, but I mean we've all heard stories of like those things rusting out and leaking, and the municipalities and the cities get involved, and house insurance gets involved, and it's like so. Same with having gas in your house. I mean, um, you run the risk of carbon monoxide potentially, and so a lot of people, it's kind of like there's a lot of peace of mind associated with switching to sort of a cleaner energy, and it's also a lot of people just want to like are looking forward. Like many of us are looking to like, well, what's next? Like, are people still going to be using this old technology in 15 or 20 or 30 years? A lot less people will be, and a lot more people are going to be switching to heat pumps. You're adding value to your home. A lot of people would rather buy a home that's got an efficient, clean energy heating system in it. So
Yeah,
all
that's
of
a really
those
good.
things.
Yeah. I'm sold. I don't know about anybody else. Well, that was my last question on the list, Mike. Adam, I wonder if you have anything that popped up throughout the course of the chat today that you wanted to, any questions you wanted to contribute?
Mike, for our listeners and members who are in the South Vancouver Island area, you just tell us a little bit about Method Air and how they can reach you.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, we're based in Victoria. We service all of the Lower Island, Greater Victoria area. We can be reached at info@methodair.ca is our email. You can look us up online, and if you want to book an appointment or an estimate, it's methodair.ca. I can be reached at 778-679-2060. You can call me or text me if you want to chat. If you have questions about heat pumps, if you want an estimate, or if you just want to say hi, give me a holler. And also, on that note, Adam, I forgot to mention as well that with the partnership that we have, members of My Climate Plan also are eligible for some rebates if I'm your solutions provider because of our partnership that we have. So we'll take $1,000 off any new install right off the top for My Climate Plan members. And as well as you'll have a membership to our maintenance program along, as a additional bonus. So that'll entitle you to 15% off repairs and an annual maintenance for your heat pump system, just for being part of My Climate Plan. So there you go.
That's
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
And yeah, we're thrilled to have Method Air as a partner that our members can rely on. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So, well, Mike, I wanted to say thank you very much for joining us on the call today and for sharing your expertise and answering questions that a lot of folks have about heat pumps and things that they may not know. Hopefully, helping people go ahead and make that jump and make the decision to get a heat pump installed. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I was happy to be here.